I couldn't really see the road ahead of me, and I had no idea what I wanted to do in life. So I just felt like everything was failing. My self worth and everything was being directly attributed to my results, which was completely unsustainable. I am proud of the work that I've done in commentary so far. Now that I'm here, I am proud of the work that I've been able to do, and I do cherish every moment and every opportunity.
My guest this week is Mani Davoudi, also known as Zapgaze. Mani can be seen casting at the highest level at the Magic Pro Tour. What you may not know about this young man is that Mani's come a long way to get here. He's lived a Magic grinder lifestyle and has many lessons to share about both playing and casting Magic. I hope you enjoy the heck out of this conversation. Quick note on the audio quality of this episode. It's not the greatest. This is unfortunate, but I hope that you'll take the time to listen anyway, because Mani is a great guest. We'll do our best to make sure that future episodes stay on the good side of audio quality. Hey, Mani, how's it going?
I'm good, James. How are you?
I'm doing really good. It's good to see you again. You are in Vancouver right now, right?
Yeah, I am. Where we first met many years ago.
Yeah. Is it okay for me to share our first encounter story? I don't know. You probably don't remember at all, but I was just thinking about it the other day. That's kind of why I reached out back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. My memory's awful. Go for it.
I'll preface this to say that I am extremely embarrassed at the person that I was 10 years ago. And I have this personal belief system that if you're not embarrassed by who you were 10 years ago, then you're probably doing it wrong. I think personal growth is very, very important, and we all kind of have to level up and grow over time. So I don't want the story to be like, to have any negative connotation, but I just thought it was interesting to share. Like the first time I met you, because I was living in Vancouver at the time too. And I think I was definitely playing Magic poorly. It was one of the LGSs. I think it was Stronghold or Connections. It was one of those. It's got to be one of those. Those are only two stores I literally know of in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And I think the first time I met you, I was playing maybe it was like a legacy tournament, or maybe I was happened to be in the store like playing some like console game that they had set up. And I think you came up and said something, and then you said, "Hey, do you know Caleb Durward?" And then you started name dropping Caleb, and you started talking about how you and him were like good friends, and you guys played Magic together. And so that was my first encounter with you. Do you remember that at all? Probably not, right?
I don't. It does sound like me 10 years ago, though. That definitely is right.
And then I think what happened was, because I didn't play that much Magic back then. So then I think I saw you at another Legacy tournament, and you crushed it with, I think it was Blue Red Painter or something. I think it was a list that I might have seen Caleb actually suggest at one point. But it's probably one of like hundreds or thousands of Magic tournaments you played, let alone being just some local event. So I'm sure you also don't remember that at all, right?
Well, there was a series. So my memory, as I said, is really bad. But there was definitely a series of Legacy tournaments I played upwards of 10 years ago at this point, where I was playing Painter. I know that you and I actually traveled down to Washington State and I think played a Legacy tournament at Brookwood together, if I'm remembering it right. But I know that there was definitely a series of time where I was playing Painter and Legacy, so that does sound right.
Mirkwood, that is now reigniting a lot of interesting memories. Yeah, we definitely did that at some point. And I guess the last thing I'll say about that first or second encounter is that when you first name dropped Caleb, I actually thought you were full of it. Like, I didn't think that you actually knew Caleb because I was so precocious and I had no idea how Magic worked and how small the community really is, that I actually went and messaged Caleb after saying, "Hey, do you actually know a guy named Mani? Like, do you actually know him, or is he just pretending to know you?" And he said, "Yeah, I know Mani. We're buddies and stuff like that." So I don't know why. That just came into my mind like 2 weeks ago, and I was just like, I want to talk to Mani. So
I'm glad that was what ignited it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's such a weird memory. I was just, maybe I'll just turn the tables and ask you, like, do you have any interesting Magic memories from like 10 years ago, maybe playing Legacy or just like being around Magic at the time?
Uh, it's tough. I have a really hard time with um, long term memory. Like most events of, I would say, honestly, pre pandemic at this point, everything is sort of a haze for me for most of my life. I have feelings that I can associate with different times, and I can vaguely remember, okay, I was in this city or this happened, but a lot of things are just completely a blur. Though sometimes thinking about things do come rushing back. Like you mentioned, Caleb reminds me of a trip at a Grand Prix Portland at some point where I think we walked through a McDonald's drive-through at 3 in the morning to get chicken nuggets. That's the random thing that I'll actually remember, but a lot of things are just completely a blur.
Yeah, that's fair. To be honest, a lot of things pre-COVID or maybe even during COVID were also kind of a blur. It's those like weird memories that just come back, like the 3 a.m. McDonald's.
Yeah.
Kind of like calling my memory of you. It's like I have no idea why. Maybe I was just watching you on Magic coverage, and I just, for some reason, you look so presentable. And then for some reason, I just thought about that. Or maybe it was like the fact that I was chatting to someone who was still in Vancouver about Magic, and it's this weird part of my brain that activated. But so you've been in Vancouver for the whole time, right? Is that right?
Yeah, when I moved to Canada from Iran, it was to Vancouver, and I have been here ever since. So I think we're now approaching 24 years of me being here.
Yeah,
Most of my life.
yeah. How has Vancouver changed in your opinion, like over the 2 decades?
Uh, it's hard to say because a lot of my memories, like I said, don't really retain. So it, it almost has a way of feeling like Vancouver is what it has always been. Though that's definitely not true. Things are constantly changing, things are constantly being developed. But for some reason, when I look around Vancouver, I don't really feel like anything has changed because my memory of it is always the most recent iteration.
What is it like to maybe this is going into the Magic story backstory a little bit. I know you've been a very high level Magic player. You won a Grand Prix in 2017. Is there anything interesting about just I'm kind of trying to tap into the Magic part of your memory only, but is there anything interesting about leveling up or developing as a Magic player in Canada, maybe as opposed to in the United States? I'm just curious. Okay, maybe let's break down the question. Maybe are there particular people or environments that allowed you to initially level up as a Magic player and really become more serious and such?
Environment. I definitely began playing Magic as a competitive outlet. I've always been competitive, and Magic to me was something I wanted to do as a competitive outlet, not just something I wanted to play casually. And coming up, there was a lot of support from that, just from the Vancouver scene, Magic Stronghold, and the Connection Games, as you mentioned, places where I got my ass handed to me a lot when I was just starting out, and really just having the opportunity to play against players that were really good, players that were Pro Tour caliber. We never had too many, but they were always here. But I think my biggest level up when I was playing earlier on in my quote unquote career was through a website called Magic League. Magic League used to be a website that basically operated through IRC, and there were various IRC channels, and they ran Magic tournaments. but they ran them through Magic Workstation. So it was a way to circumvent Magic Online and card availability and just get to play Magic. And I spent a lot of time because I didn't have a Magic Online account or access to cards because I was a broke kid playing in Magic League tournaments. And that was a way for me to really hone some level of skill.
Yeah. What was the initial even motivation that made you want to get into Magic League and Workstation? I guess getting your ass handed to you, in your words, was one, but was there anything else?
It wasn't enough for me, the amount of Magic I was able to play in person, especially when I was first going away to university. I spent a brief time at the University of Victoria. Being in Victoria made it so I was cut off from a lot of the competitive Magic scene because everything, or pretty much everything, was in Vancouver at the time. So it was a 3-hour ferry ride away. I didn't have a car. I didn't have any reasonable means. And even then, I still came back on weekends where there were big tournaments because I wanted to compete. But while I was there, I could get some of my Magic fill in at Yellow Jacket, but that required a trek off campus. So a lot of my time, I just wanted to play more Magic. It wasn't enough for me. And that's where Magic League came in.
Would you say that the people that had the most impact on your growth as a player were the people that were in the Magic League, maybe people like Caleb or otherwise, or was it more people in IRL?
I would definitely say that the biggest impact on me were the players in Vancouver. As I came up, I became friends with, and we would draft a lot. And I think it was almost trial by fire. We would do a lot of team drafts, but I was a lot worse than a lot of people. So I was joining the team drafts basically knowing that I was disadvantaged, knowing that I didn't have a good chance of winning. But it was a really good opportunity to both observe better players and play against better players. And I think that was the biggest thing for me locally that had an impact on my growth as a Magic player.
Were you fully immersed in Magic? Like, was it taking up all the waking hours of your time, or did you find a different balance?
Oh yeah, no. Once I really started competing in Magic, I was hooked. Like, I started playing, I think, in late 2008, and by the time I went over to university, mid 2009, I wasn't really focusing on my classes. Partially a mix of not having interest in them and post-secondary education, and partly just being obsessed with Magic. But my schedule looked something like I would skip half of my classes and grind Magic Online every day, either in Magic League or later on through MTGO. I would basically stay up all night grinding. Then in the morning when the cafeteria opened, I would go get breakfast from the cafeteria, go back to my room and sleep. And that was my schedule for most of an entire semester of school. So it wasn't the best schedule. It wasn't the healthiest, but I was deep into it.
It sounds like you followed in the grand tradition of many Magic players and pros that came before you, like the Magic Online laptop lifestyle. Yeah.
Yeah, whether it was
or desktop. Yeah.
Whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, I definitely followed the path of many a grinder and pro before myself.
What did you study in university?
So I went to university for English as my minor. It was weird because I had applied for university for the theater program all throughout high school. I was a theater kid. And I was passionate about it. I really wanted to continue doing theater in university. But I didn't get into the theater program that I applied for. I applied for a few. But I got into the English program. And, ideology that had been blasted at me was always, I have to go to university. I have to go to university. So it never seemed like an option at the time to not do so. So when I got into the University of Victoria, I went and I started doing the studying, but I couldn't really see the road ahead of me. I couldn't see, okay, well, what happens after I finish studying English? And I had no idea what I wanted to do in life, but my studies also didn't interest me at all. And I had a really hard time focusing on something and putting time into something that didn't interest me. So I just felt like everything was failing. And at sometime near the end of that first semester, I realized that school is only going to benefit me if I'm actually doing the work. This isn't like high school of just, I have to get through to the other side. If I'm not getting a major that I have interest in, if I'm not actually doing the coursework and learning from it, I'm just wasting my time and I'm just wasting money. So I decided that until I could figure out a direction for myself, I wasn't going to continue, and I dropped out after that first semester.
Okay. So yeah, it just wasn't for you at that time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever go back or try to re-engage with theater in some way, or English, or?
I tried taking some classes later on at a local college in Vancouver after I came back, but part of it was, I wouldn't find this out until much later, but I have ADHD, and I hadn't gotten diagnosed with it. So a lot of my attention issues and trouble focusing had to do with that. And that was during the time that I was in school. So no matter what I studied, I couldn't get something to stick. And ultimately my path went in a different direction. So I never ended up going back to school even after I was diagnosed and put on ADHD medication. Now, whether it's something that I'll revisit in the future or not, who knows? But at the moment, that's not really the path for me.
Yeah. I really want to ask, like, because I don't personally know what it is like to have ADHD, or maybe out to generalize it, the inability to focus at certain times. Like, I'm just wondering if you are able to be at the level that you wanted to be in Magic at that time. Like let's just say pre-medication or pre-treatment, right? Was there were you able to focus or be at where you wanted to be, I should say, when it came to Magic, like looking back all those years ago?
No, but I don't think it was because of the ADHD. I think it played a part, certainly, but I think that I often think that I almost wasted my competitive opportunity at Magic for a very long time. And that was more to do with that entire time frame of my life than just the ADHD.
Yeah. So not to pinpoint it on that, but maybe like there are other things. And what would you say those other things are or were?
So I spent a lot of time between, I would say, 2010, when I stopped going to school, and 2015, when I first decided to take a step back from Magic. I spent a lot of time playing Magic. It was, for most of those years, it was my sole focus. But I was also extremely depressed at the time. And it was one of those things where a combination of leaving school or having felt like I failed at school, and my physical health not being in a good place, and feeling directionless in terms of where my life is going. This was all going on, and for me, it felt like magic was the only positive thing in my life. It was something that I was moderately good at. I wouldn't say I was great at it. I certainly wasn't playing at a professional level, but I was moderately good at it. And this was a positive thing in a life that felt like it was full of negatives. Mm-hmm. But the flip side of that was it became my everything. And that also meant that my self-worth and everything was being directly attributed to my results. If magic is the only thing in my life and I'm not doing well at it, then I'm failing at life. And if I am doing well at it, then I'm just meeting expectation. So it created this really bad dynamic in terms of reward, where feeling good, doing well was a very minor dopamine rush of this is how I'm supposed to be doing, whereas doing badly had a deep negative effect, which was completely unsustainable. And I realized that later, but at the time, there was nothing else. So I was just caught in this cycle. And I think if I had taken a year off in, let's say, 2011, 2012, and taken some time to focus on myself, work on my physical health a bit, work on my mental health a bit, and just step away from the game, and make sure that I have a more well-rounded life, and then come back to the game with those things having gotten the proper attention and care. I think that my career could have been very different, but unfortunately at the time, that never really seemed like an option. It was just keep pushing, just keep grinding, just keep going for the next tournament. And the result was I spent a long time failing at Magic. I was grinding, but I wasn't making it to the Pro Tour. I was getting middling tournament results in whatever I was playing in. And in general, I just was not feeling good about playing the game, but I was doing it anyway. If I had done that differently, I think my career could have been different.
Yeah, that really resonates with me for two reasons. One is that I've also been there. I've also been in that situation where I wanted Magic to be everything. Now, mind you, I didn't even reach the heights that you achieved, but in my own mind, I was very much, if I look back 10 years ago or whenever it was, I was single. I wanted to use Magic to fill some sort of void in my life. You know what I mean? Like I wanted Magic to be some sort of magic bullet, to use a Magic term, to address some of the things that were going on around me. And I didn't really know how to stop because I just had a kind of addictive personality. Like even now, like when it comes to, maybe not Magic anymore, but like a few years ago for me, it was Magic Online. More recently, it was Twitter. And it's just really hard for me to draw boundaries. I'm not saying that we're exactly the same. And I don't want to trivialize some of your mental health and struggles with depression. I'm not trying to say that, but I think there is something universal about like being a player who wants to be competitive in Magic and just feeling like winning only gives you like 1/10 the satisfaction of proportional to like I don't know how to say it, like losing hurts a lot more than winning. Like I also remember the second thing that resonated about what you said is because you know Jerry Thompson has been very public about his struggles with depression. And when I talked to him, he was also saying that, like, even when I won like a major event, I would feel happy for like a brief moment of time, and then I would just go back to feeling terrible. So there's something that's just not like the game is just kind of rigged against you if you're trying to use magic um, to address some of the other things going on in your life. And but having said all that, like, how did you get out of that funk? Because you said it was like between 2010 and 2015 that you were really like in this kind of in this cycle, right? How did you manage um, to get out of it?
Well, my story and how I was feeling certainly not unique. I think it's something that the majority of Magic grinders have probably felt at some point. But for me personally, I remember exactly. It was Grand Prix Las Vegas in 2015, and it was, I think, Modern Masters 2 sealed, and I went 9-0 on day one. And that was my second Grand Prix day one, undefeated. The first time in Houston, I had converted to a top eight, and that was my first Grand Prix top eight, and felt the appropriate level of fleeting joy from it before the reality of Magic set back in. But at this point, I was deep into the I have to do well mindset. So when I went day one of that Grand Prix, it was great. And then day two, I bombed out. I went 1-2 in both drafts. And the level of disappointment that I felt that day wasn't comparable to anything I had felt up to that point playing Magic. Even the Pro Tours that I had gone to and day two but not done so well or failed to make day two, this far outweighed them. And it was taking a step back and re-examining my feelings after that event where I realized that something I should have realized years ago, which is Magic is a game where you're going to lose much more than you're going to win. That's the unfortunate reality of a game like Magic that is both skill and variance-based, is throughout your career, you're not going to be the winner in that many tournaments. Whether it's the second loser, whether it's the third loser, top eight, missing top eight, whatever it is, you're going to lose a lot more than you're going to win in Magic. And if you can't find a way for those losses to sting less than the wins are sweet, then your relationship with the game is not healthy. And you're not going to be able to overcome that. And I knew that if I kept playing, I couldn't overcome that because I felt nothing from any sort of positive result, but I felt horrible from negative results. And I decided after that Grand Prix that I was done. I was quitting competitive Magic, and yeah, that was the catalyst. And I said I'm done, and I stopped traveling to events.
So it was a new rock bottom. It was a new low, and it was like finally the wake up call for Monty to be like, this is not healthy. Like I felt nothing from the 9-0, but I felt everything from the day two, right?
Yeah.
Wow. So what happened? Like you took time away from Magic? Like how long? Like
so I decided that I'm done playing competitively. It was weird because I couldn't just stop playing Magic altogether. Part of that just being Magic had been my life from 2009 to 2015. And the result of that was all of my social circles were ingrained through Magic. All of my hobbies had been put aside for Magic. It was the only thing in my life for so long that if I just completely stopped playing, not only would I have nothing to do, but I'd have no friends, nothing. So I kept playing Magic casually, doing cube drafts and online drafts and things that would give me that fill without needing to compete, without needing the results to matter. But I also started working on myself. I started eating better. I started exercising. I went to a doctor for my depression, and I got diagnosed with ADHD. I put on the appropriate medication. And all of those changes made an impact. It changed my mindset a lot. It helped balance out my mood a lot, because I was a pretty angry person. I tried not to let that affect other people. I tried my best for my anger to mostly be directed at myself, but a lot of that was just a deep unhappiness with where my life was at and where my life was going. So being put on medication, taking a step back to really focus on improving aspects of my life also helped me really just, I would say, evolve as a person and mellow out quite a bit. That was nice.
Were there particular people that helped you on your journey at that time, like just in terms of support network?
Really, just the entire Vancouver Magic community. My friends like Sebastian Deno and Jordan Cairns and Drew Christensen were just sort of always there, while also understanding my decision to not want to play competitively. So there were plenty of ways to hang out with Magic without needing to travel to events. And my parents have always been extremely supportive, and it definitely felt like I had the support system to step away from the game to a certain extent, but without feeling like I'm isolating myself.
Okay. So it sounds like your good friends were pretty good at helping you keep your distance away from competitive Magic then. They weren't like constantly saying, "Hey, Monty, like there's there's a PTQ this weekend. Do you want to play it or something?" Yeah. I guess you would know anyway since you're
none of that,
still in Magic. Okay, that's good. So how do you go from that to going back into competitive Magic? Because I know for a fact that you started playing at least online competitively in 2020. Like, did you take, was it the entire 5 years, or did you get back to competitive Magic? Like, what made you decide to go back? Did you feel like you had done enough time away and healing, or was it something else?
So between 2015 and 2017, it's funny because I can look at my MTG Elo project and really
yeah,
that.
That helps, yeah.
I played that Grand Prix Las Vegas, and then I played 2 Grand Prix Vancouvers that were in hometown, and I felt like I had to play them. And I played those with a very almost casual mindset. I didn't spend time preparing. I didn't worry too much about my deck choices. I just played to have a good time. And I did. And that was the extent of my Magic competition. I played 0 PTQs. I played nothing. And it did good for me. I felt like my mindset improved a lot. I think somewhere during this period, I actually traveled down to Portland when there was a Grand Prix happening, and I didn't play. I didn't play in the Grand Prix. I was in the city where a Grand Prix was happening, and I didn't play. And that was like
that would have been unthinkable for money,
right,
like 5 years ago.
Unthinkable, because Grand Prix were seen as a rare commodity in the Northwest. We didn't get them too often, so if there was a Grand Prix, you were playing. I just didn't play, and I felt really good about not playing. I had no feelings of FOMO throughout the weekend of I wish I was. I felt completely at peace with it. Um, and then made a lot of improvements during that time, but 2017 rolled around, and there was a Grand Prix Las Vegas happening, um, and this was the big one. First of all, this was the first Grand Prix Las Vegas since 2015, which was the event that sort of rolled me down that path. But it was when they were doing the 3 Grand Prix in one weekend. So it was limited Thursday,
yes.
Friday.
Yes.
I think
That's pretty legendary.
Modern Friday, Saturday, and Legacy Saturday, Sunday or something. It was an insane weekend. And I wanted to be in Las Vegas that weekend just because I wanted to see friends. I hadn't traveled in 2 years. I didn't have work at that moment, so it lined up where I could take a vacation, and I wanted to see my friends. And I thought to myself that I'm going to play the limited Grand Prix. And regardless of how it goes, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm just going to play the limited Grand Prix and have a good time, and then enjoy being in Vegas, enjoy the food, enjoy my friends. It's a vacation.
So again, no expectations about that event.
No expectations. None. I had put zero work into it. And I get to Las Vegas, and I play the limited event. And mind you, I win a side event Grand Prix trial on the Wednesday, the day before the limited Grand Prix. So even though I've been playing no Magic, I have 2 buys because of that. And it's funny because it was really value for that weekend, because if you won one of the Grand Prix trials, you got 2 buys into all 3 of the Grand Prix. It didn't matter.
Oh my gosh.
You got 2 buys into all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Which didn't matter to me at the time. So I played the limited Grand Prix, and I went 0-3.
But just to it gives me an idea as to maybe even how competitive those trials are, because I'm sure people are just grinding them nonstop, right? Trying to get those buys.
It was tough. And I played the limited Grand Prix. I opened a pretty good pool, and I went 0-3. Did not win a match, and I was done by like 5 in the afternoon or something. And there was this moment of like, all right, well, now what? And it's like, all right, well, enjoy Las Vegas. So I'm hanging around the site. I'm talking to people. I'm having conversations, because that was the point of the trip, was to see friends, see people who I haven't seen for a while. It's Vegas. It's 3 Grand Prix, so it attracted a lot of people. I'm talking to people I haven't seen in 2 years. And I somehow arrive at a table where, funny you mentioned him, Jerry Thompson and Sam Black are having a conversation. And they're having a conversation about Modern. And somewhere in that conversation, I don't know how it comes up, but Sam mentions that he thinks Affinity is really well positioned in Modern. And it's funny because I haven't really been playing much Modern. I haven't been playing much Constructed at all. But the few times that I had played Modern, both before I quit and throughout my retirement in like random online leagues when I'd been craving it, Affinity was the deck I had played. It was the only deck I really knew in the format. So when Sam said he thought Affinity was really well positioned, it caught my interest. And you know, that planted the seed of maybe. So I started thinking about it and started researching deck lists on my phone while I'm at the venue that afternoon, and trying to see what the current iteration of the Affinity decks look like. And I went for a Hail Mary. I asked my friend, Steve Barnett, who was there, if he was playing Affinity in the Modern Grand Prix, or if his Affinity deck was available. And he said that it was available. So I'm like, okay, I might want to use it. And I spent the rest of the day really thinking about that decision. I'm like, okay, well, I just lost, but I don't feel bad about having lost. So this is already some improvement. Do I want to play a second Grand Prix this weekend? And it was going to be with the same no expectations. I just want to play more Magic because I'm here. And I decided sometime at like 1 in the morning that I was going to play the Grand Prix.
At 1 in the morning.
Yeah. And
Last minute audible.
Yeah. And I messaged Steve, and he was up playing poker. And I asked him, hey, can you have the deck for me in the morning? And he said, yeah, I'll have it. So I registered for the Grand Prix, and I still had my 2 buys. And yeah, I wasn't taking it seriously. I think that first evening, before day 1, me and Pascal Maynard went to the Win Encore to their like pool club, where there was a DJ playing a show at like I think midnight. So when I messaged Steve, I was at that show, and I messaged him from like poolside at a pool club, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna play. And then I left that show at 5 in the morning, got back to my friends who I was staying with, slept 2 hours until 7, woke up, had breakfast, and went to the site, grabbed my deck, and played in the Modern event. And it was almost poetic in a way, because it was 2 years later in the same city that had, in a way, broken me in 2015. And I went 9-0 on day 1. And then I went nearly undefeated in day 2. And I won the Grand Prix. The Grand Prix I wasn't planning on playing in. A Grand Prix I hadn't prepared for. A Grand Prix who I definitely wasn't rested enough to play in, given the choices I had made. But I won. And it was a surreal feeling, because I didn't expect it. I wasn't planning on doing well. It just sort of happened. And the feeling I had after that was really special, because there were a lot of my friends there who were watching, and I got to see them after. And it was just this feeling of, okay, this is what it feels like to actually get a win that matters, because I had never done that in my career. And it was nice.
Were you very emotional after the 2 days?
Yeah, it's weird because it never really sank in. I just couldn't believe it at the time that it had happened. It just seemed ridiculous to me. Like, I didn't play competitive Magic anymore. How did that happen? I think a lot of it was just the removal of the stress on myself and just finding myself relaxed throughout the tournament. But yeah, it was my first trophy. I'd never done that. And it was really special. And when it really started feeling real a week or so later, I was just content. I didn't think I was playing Magic again. Everybody kept asking. It was almost like John Wick, like, are you back? And I was like, no, I don't think so.
Are you out of retirement?
Yeah, I think I just played the one event, and it qualified me for a Pro Tour, so I was going to play that, but I wasn't back. Nothing had changed in terms of I want to continue focusing on myself and my life outside of Magic.
I'm intentionally curious about one thing.
Yeah.
In that Grand Prix, when you were heading into the top 8, what was going through your mind at that point in time?
Honestly, it was just redemption. It was the idea that I had done it this time around. It wasn't about winning at that point. It was just that I had come back to Vegas, and this time I had come out on top. And that was really nice to me. It didn't, it didn't matter. It wasn't like I held a grudge against Vegas, but the fact that I had been able to redeem myself from the previous event was just really nice. And once I got to the top eight, I had done it because that qualified for the Pro Tour. That had been my goal for so long. I played some Pro Tours, but I spent a lot of time trying to make it back to the Pro Tour and failing. So getting that top eight, getting back to the Pro Tour was the redemption of that fact in a lot of ways.
I know that some players, when they enter a top eight, they're kind of just happy to be there. And some people, when they enter the top eight, they're like, I'm going to win the whole thing, right? Where were you on that spectrum when you entered that top eight? Was it happy to be there, or was it just like, I am now going to crush it, or it's none of the above?
I was just approaching it one match at a time. I think I lost one match throughout that entire tournament in the Swiss, and that person was in the top eight. But the rest of the event had been too easy almost. So, like, I didn't feel like I didn't have a chance. I felt like my list was really good and my deck was well positioned. But I also just felt like I'm going to play a match of Magic, and hopefully they'll let me play another one and another one until I don't have any more matches to play. Whether that's from losing or winning, it is what it is. But I just want to play more Magic.
And after that win and going to the Pro Tour and subsequent years, how would you describe your I guess we'll just say from then until 2020, because that's when you started casting or doing more of it. Like, how would you describe your relationship with Magic and how that has evolved? Or maybe even like from then until now, like that entire relationship you have with Magic or competitive Magic.
I would say healthy is the definition I would use. I'm definitely going to focus on pre-2020, just because I feel like that's sort of a separate era now. But I was able to play at the Pro Tour and not do well and not be crushed about it like I was previously. And I was able to come back to Vancouver and carry on with my life, focus on work, focus on my health, focus on myself, and just continue going down what felt like the right path. But I was also able to play some Magic here and there. A few years later, I think in 2018, I drove down to Seattle, and I played an LCQ for the regional PTQs, the RPTQs, and then I made it in, and then I qualified for the Pro Tour off of that. So it was like, I wasn't grinding, but I was allowing myself to compete when the inspiration and the itch struck. And I was able to have good results, which was cool. It was nice to have that relationship with Magic where I could play when I want and not play the rest of the time and don't feel like it is consuming me in my life.
Yeah. And what's it like? What was it like for you to play in the Pro Tours?
I played in a few, and the first few, pre-2015, were extremely nerve-wracking and just
a lot of expectations on yourself, it sounds like.
Yeah, I wanted to succeed, but more than that, I had to succeed. When I didn't, it felt really bad. Then the Pro Tours I played post 2015, it was the opposite. I didn't need to succeed because I knew that regardless of what happened that weekend, I had a life to go back to that was completely fine. I did a lot better. I requalified at one of the Pro Tours for another one, and I had decent results. I wouldn't say great results, but I had decent results. And even when I didn't, I was fine with it. I was happy with it because it was a vacation. The goal wasn't for me to do amazing at those Pro Tours. It was just be able to have a healthy relationship with Magic, and I felt like I was doing that. So the Pro Tours were fulfilling what they needed to, which was an opportunity to play at the highest level without feeling bad about it afterwards.
I feel like that's the great paradox of Magic, or the paradox of Magic tryharding. A lot of people that I've talked to, the paradox is that when their life is not all about Magic, or their expectations are not all about performing super well every time, that's when they're able to actually do well. And when someone is almost trying too hard, more often than not, maybe statistically, it's just impossible. Like they just can't perform all the time. I mean, they just can't perform well all the time. So it's like the more expectations, pressure you put on yourself, the harder it is, and the more well-rounded you are maybe as a person, the better you're actually able to do. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to the rule. Maybe you know of somebody who put all of their life into Magic 24/7 and got there. But I would expect that for the average human, it's probably harder when you put a ton of expectations on yourself, kind of like the proverbial gun to the head, and then you're expected to always do well. That's very difficult. So I feel like you figure something out, right? Would you agree or disagree?
I would agree. I wish I'd figured it out a lot sooner. If I could go back 15 years and talk to the Monty that is just starting out Magic, the one thing I would say is make sure that I have a life outside of Magic. Make sure that I have a well-rounded persona, and that things aren't everything about Magic. And I would say that to all the grinders is just, I think, taking a step away from the game and just making sure that your life outside of it is on the right track, whatever that may be. You know, life is different for everyone, but just making sure that you have something that isn't the game is really important. And I know that I was lacking that, and I know that a lot of grinders have lacked that in the past. And I think it's really important to just have that balance. And once I realized that, it really helped a lot in all aspects of my life.
I'm glad to hear that you're in a better place now. Just as someone who knows you as a friend, I'm just really happy that you found the way. And the next thing I want to ask you is, how did you get into casting? Because I understand, like, we might have had some messages back and forth, like pre-2020, like you were helping to do some, or cast or organize some local events. So how did you make your way into that?
So in 2018, I started unofficially helping out and working with a company called the Gaming Stadium. And their idea was to open a stadium that would almost act like a community center for esports and gaming in Vancouver, while also being a space to compete, having a stage, having the gear, having everything where you could do legitimate tournaments and broadcast them. And this lined up a lot with my passions and what I was interested in. And I started working with them unofficially. And then in 2019, when they opened, I started working with them officially. And over the course of 2019, we ran a lot of different events for different games, but Magic being my passion, and coinciding with Magic Arena having just gotten its full release, I started running some arena events. And it was both a way for me to stay connected to the Magic community. It was also just something that I felt like I could do for the Vancouver community that had done so much for me, was to host more ways for them to play Magic and compete at Magic and win prizes. Those events were really cool. It was a lot of fun. But they also allowed me to fulfill one of my other almost dreams or long-time goals for Magic, which was commentary. Commentary had been something that I wanted to do basically since the beginning. Since I started playing competitive Magic, I loved watching Pro Tours. And I think I watched the Pro Tour Kyoto broadcast, and that was the first time that I was like, I want to do that. I want to be a commentator. I want to be able to talk about Magic for a living. And that became my long-term goal for a really long time. Even during all the times I was grinding, that was my goal, was eventually to be able to do Magic commentary. But the opportunity never really came up. Unfortunately, commentary is in any endeavor, but especially in Magic and Esports, there's a much wider pool of people that want to and can do it than there are opportunities.
Absolutely.
That's the nature of it. And commentary was never an attainable thing for me when I was playing Magic. So when I started working for the gaming stadium and started running my own arena events, well, there was nobody to stop me from doing commentary on top of them. So I was sort of, with the help of my team, I was doing it all. I was running the event and running back and forth between the room and the commentary booth and commentating on my own events. And I would get people who are playing, who have their buys or have been knocked out, to jump in and do some commentary with me. And sometimes I would just solo cast if there was nobody. But it was a way for me to really live out that dream for myself. So I was doing that, and fast forward to early 2020, I've just had a good result at DreamHack Anaheim, which I sort of went to on a whim just because I wanted to play some Magic, and it was a really cool looking arena tournament. And then the pandemic hit, and everything stopped. Everything shut down. My work all became online, and we had to find a way to pivot. But Magic also shut down. And Channel Fireball wanted to fill the void of competitive Magic, so they started doing the Grand Prix at home. And I saw that they were running qualifiers and they were running these events, and they were doing round-the-clock coverage. So they had a lot of people I'd never heard of doing commentary, and suddenly what was an endeavor that had more people than opportunities now seemed like there were a ton of opportunities for even a brief moment, but there were a ton of opportunities, and I had been working at it. I had been doing it for myself. So I reached out to Martin Juza, who worked for Channel Fireball and was doing some of the commentary, and asked him if he could put me in touch with the right person. And a few weeks later, I got the opportunity at 4 in the morning to impromptu cast one of the qualifiers. I was actually playing in that qualifier, so unbeknownst to the viewers, I was basically playing Magic on one screen, watching Magic on a different screen simultaneously, and trying to focus on my game while casting the game as well.
Talk about multitasking.
Yeah. It wasn't the best, and it was 4 in the morning, but I managed to make my way through it. I didn't win the match of the Magic I was playing, but they weren't really my priority at the time. And it went well, and I got another opportunity from Channel Fireball, and then that opportunity led to CFB hiring me to do one of the Players Tours online, and then that got me noticed with Wizards of the Coast, and I got a chance to do the Players Tour Finals. And then from there, it was hard to do more work and more work and more work until I became a regular part of the Wizards Pro Tour broadcast team.
Right. Now you're at the highest level, my friend. You've kind of reached the top of the mountain. But you there's so much you just said that I want to like go back a
Yeah,
little bit.
let's do it.
First of all, in your opinion, how does one get better at casting or doing coverage?
Uh, the short answer and the most depressing one is to just do it. And
Like reps?
yeah, and the reason that's depressing is because there's an opportunity to do it. I did it because I was running my own tournaments. Obviously, not everybody can do that.
Hmm.
But even just if you want to start practicing commentary, just playing games of Magic and recording them, and then going back and doing commentary over them as an observer. It's not the best, but it's something. Or watching games of Pro Magic on mute and acting as if you are the commentator. So, for example, the Pro Tour that just happened, if you're watching the VOD and you just mute Paul Marshall and you do commentary over it, that's a way to practice. That's a way to get some reps in. It's not ideal, but it's better than nothing. I think reps is the best way to really start honing some skills in. And the other thing I would say is definitely watching your commentary. If you're in a position to be doing commentary, go back and watch it. I always say that to anyone that asks me how to improve at commentary. I feel like I have a ton of room for improvement myself, but the answer is always when you do any sort of commentary, go back and watch it, review it from the point of view of a spectator, and judge yourself for how you did. Not in a way of not trying to make yourself feel bad, but trying to take an objective view of this is where I could have used some improvement. I'm not quite happy with how I did this, and just notes for general improvement, or ask friends to review what you've done and give you any notes. Ask for pointers. It's all just ways to improve.
Sounds like there's some parallels between improving as a commentator and improving at Magic, right? Like you have to go back and reflect. You have to like study the game film as opposed to just mindlessly grinding leagues. You might have to actually go back and figure out, like, think more about it as opposed to do it all the time. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. I think that with anything that you really just get better at over time, there's different approaches to how you can use that time. And one of it is definitely reps, and I think that helps a lot with commentary. But the other, which I think is an underrated thing in Magic, is just analysis and review. And that's a big thing that I think would level up the game of a lot of Magic players, is if you have any sort of game footage on tape, whether that's replays, whether that's covered matches, whatever it is, going back and reviewing your matches is a great way to improve the Magic. And the same is true about commentary.
For sure. And I also wanted to ask you, how does one get better at creating chemistry with your co-caster? Or because I feel like that's something that people don't talk enough about, is having good chemistry. For example, on air, I feel like you have great chemistry with Maria. I feel like there's certain casters that are just able to blend well. Like, how does one get better at that? Because there's the whole like getting better as an individual, but there's also the whole teamwork dynamics. So for you, what were the things that helped you get to where you are today?
It's unfortunate because a lot of chemistry, in my opinion, is organic and natural. Me and Maria sort of immediately gelled as a duo. Our sense of humor really plays off each other well. We have a lot of fun behind the scenes of just entertaining each other during the broadcast, and that carries over into our time on screen of just having a very natural flow. And I think for the best commentary pairs and the best commentary teams, there's definitely there is an element of natural chemistry, whether that comes from friendship and having known each other for years, or whether it's personality styles and commentary styles meshing well. There is a level of chemistry that you can't really force or develop over time, but the closest thing to it is just continued reps with a partner. I think the most important thing in commentary is, especially when you are doing in-game commentary, not just the news desk, is working with the same partner time after time. It really helps you figure out each other's timings. It helps you figure out each other's senses of humor, how to set each other up for slam dunks. All of that really comes through trial and error working with the same partner.
What's your mindset like when you go into events? Because I know you've been on record saying that you might start studying the metagame as early as 3-4 weeks before the event. Like maybe try to play a little bit, watch a little bit, try to get familiar with the decks and the cards and the strategies. But other than the kind of Magic strategy part, what goes through your mind, or what's your preparation like going into the event, like to be ready to cast or ready to provide coverage?
Honestly, it's used to be really nervous about it, but I've calmed down a lot now that I've been doing it for almost 3 years, which is insane to think about in and of itself. It's just trying to make sure that I'm not sick, avoiding...
like you're in good health at the time?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to be low energy during a show week. So just making sure that I'm avoiding activities that can drain me, making sure that I'm not using my voice too much. Those are the biggest non-Magic ways for a show. Because as long as I'm able to perform my duties on camera, and I feel confident in the knowledge that I'm relying on having put the work in my Magic prep, the rest of it is just, it feels natural. It just comes easily at this point.
What was the most personally challenging event to work? Like, if you look back over the past 3 years, like what was the most challenging event to cast, like for any reason, whether technical or personal or mental or whatever?
It's weird because I don't really remember any of them.
It goes back to what you said, right?
Yeah. It's tough because it all the shows just sort of feel like a complete show at this point, and I don't really remember them.
It is a grind, right? Kind of like a Magic event or something.
Yeah. I don't think I could pinpoint one. Every show has its unique challenges when it comes to tech issues, but part of the job is just being able to not let that shake me when it comes to on camera. It doesn't matter how frustrated I am with things not working or things going wrong, as long as I can leave that off camera and be myself and my usual self when the camera's rolling. That's all that matters, and I feel like I've been able to do that in all the events that I've worked, which is something that I'm proud of, and something that I cherish for sure, because it's not always easy.
What are you proudest of in terms of a singular event? Or is it just being proud of a whole body of work? Like, are there particularly proud moments you have, like within an event or with anything like through that journey?
Definitely not a single moment. I am proud of the work that I've done in commentary so far. I'm proud of the fact that I have been able to package in-depth game analysis in a way that is appreciable both by people who are not overly entrenched in Magic, as well as players at a pro level. Because that was my goal, was to be able to do commentary that, not everyone, because it's impossible to please everyone, but the largest collection of Magic players could enjoy and appreciate. And if I was doing that, I would feel like I'm succeeding. And that means receiving feedback from a wide range of people. People I don't know, people who I've played Magic with for years, people in Twitch chat, people on Twitter, whoever it is, hearing kind words and seeing that I've been able to present the commentary that is palatable for a lot of people. That's what I'm proud of. Even understanding that it's all been a blur. I feel like I skipped a lot of the building up to commentary. It just sort of happened for me in a series of events where I went from basically not doing commentary at all to becoming a full-time part of the Wizards broadcast team. And even now, 3 years later, that still feels surreal to me. It feels like, shouldn't I be going through years of grinding low-level commentary events? And shouldn't I be building my way up? And I don't really feel proud of having done that, because I feel like a lot of it was luck and being in the right place at the right time and being able to capitalize on it. So I don't think I can be like, I did this, I single-handedly so good that this happened. That's not a feeling that I can...
Like, I can write the book on how you can do it, just like I did.
That's not a feeling that I can reasonably have. I understand and appreciate that I got lucky for the right things to happen at the right time, and once I was there, I managed to capitalize. But it's like, now that I'm here, I am proud of the work that I've been able to do, and I do cherish every moment and every opportunity I get to continue doing it.
The flip side of that is, do you feel some sense of imposter syndrome at being where you are now?
I used to. I always believed, when I wanted to do commentary for a very long time, I always believed that I would be good at it, because I am a very talkative person, to a fault most of the time, as you can attest, having known me 10 years ago. I talk too much, but I also always felt like I could package my thoughts in a coherent way. One of the things that I felt in my life like I would be good at was, I thought I could be a good teacher if I had the patience to be a teacher, which I don't. I don't. But I felt like I could be a good teacher in that I do like trying to explain things and teaching concepts in a way that people can comprehend and appreciate. So, yes, I felt some sense of imposter syndrome that I'm at the Pro Tour and I've been doing commentary for 2 months, 3 months. But at the same time, I believed that I would be good at it. And I was seeing from every avenue, whether it was player feedback, viewer feedback, or internal WotC feedback, that I was doing a good job and they were happy with what I was doing. So I was trying really hard to internalize that feedback and believe that it wasn't just me feeling like I'd done a good job. I was actually doing a good job. And it wasn't always easy. I didn't always believe it. But I tried to make an active effort to internalize that all the same.
Looking back on these 2-3 years, or even maybe as recently as 6 months, are you able to objectively assess why it was that you are in Wizards' good graces, right? Like, that you are able to do an objectively good job. Like, I think there's definitely like validation around the community that you're doing the right things. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Are you able to to look back on some of that and figure out like where like how did you achieve all that? Like you kind of touched on some stuff, but I still want to know like just how you think about the recent journey and how you're now doing a pro tour and all of that.
Part of it is definitely just really made sure, and it wasn't even an active effort, it was sort of how my personality is, but I made sure to put the work in. When I got that first trial event with Wizards, the Players Tour finals, I was set to cast one round each day. And the rest of the time, I was there to observe and be part of the process. But the entire time, I was asking questions and trying to learn and try to think about the show as something I'm a part of, even if that's a small part. And I was making sure to relay tidbits about players, cool facts, whatever I thought could level up the broadcast in some minor, minuscule way. I was inputting that just to not feel like I had walked away from it, not having given it my all. So I fully immersed myself in the show. And with every show, it was, oh, you need to do some tiebreaker math to figure out how many of these matches matter for the top 8. I can do that. I can tell you which matches matter. I can map out exactly the 5 different permutations that this round is going to look like that will result in what we're watching and what we're doing. Oh, you need this done. I can do that. You need me here. I can do that. It was making myself available, making myself part of the show and sort of giving it my all. And that's just the way I approached things. Was when I was doing something, I wanted to give it my all if it was something that interested me. And commentary obviously interested me. So at every opportunity that I was given, I did everything that was asked of me, and I made myself available for whatever may be needed of me. And in that way, I felt like I capitalized on the opportunity I was given, and I feel like that attitude was something that was appealing, as well as the commentary hopefully being okay. It was something that made an appealing package for Wizards. And I think it helped that I knew everybody from the Magic scene. I knew Paul Chion, and I knew Maria, and I knew Rich Haken, who works behind the scenes, and I knew Corey, and I knew Marshall. Knowing all these people and knowing them in some capacity made me slot into the team more naturally. It didn't feel like I was a stranger being added, that I now had to become familiar with all these people. It was, we have pre-existing relationships.
I think you've touched on, that's it. Like, I think it's a couple of things you said. One is definitely putting in the work, right? But I think what you're saying is that putting in the work is just table stakes, right? Putting in the work is just the bare minimum, but you're always thinking about, like, in that one round or in that opportunity that I have, how can I try to go above and beyond a little bit, right? It's kind of like get a little bit better or try to offer a little bit more in terms of value, whether it's the math or whether it's, being willing to absorb what is around you and showing people that you're willing to learn, you're willing to absorb what is happening. Like, people can sense that. It's just a very human quality, right? Like, whether basically it's like if someone is curious versus whether they're just here to show up. Like, are you just happy to be here, or are you actually trying to take away something? I think it sounds like you're definitely in the latter. Because I think, like, going back to what you said about like there being a large pool of people that want to do commentary, there are, I don't know how many people that would love to be in your shoes, but not all of those people, given you can call it luck, or you can call it like timing. Like given those opportunities, not all of them are going to work as hard as you did, or not all of them are willing to try to go a little bit above and beyond, try to impress the overlords at Wizards or whomever, right? Like just kind of like building a portfolio in real time as you're doing it, like on the job. I think that's what I'm kind of taking away from what you said, and hopefully I haven't misrepresented your words or what you're trying to get across.
Oh, it's true. It's the understanding that there are a lot of people that want to do what I do, and a lot of people that would be good at it if given the opportunity, which is awesome. But that also means if I want to continue doing what I do, I have to give it my all. I have to do my best and appreciate and capitalize on the fortunate position that I've been put in. And that's all I can do. That's all I managed to do.
Looking forward, what are some of your goals, if any, or intentions when it comes to casting?
It's weird because, I'm casting at the highest level for Magic. So when setting goals, it's normally the goals would be to get here. So what goals do you set when you are
here?
At the top? And the answer is I don't really know. I have an understanding that casting is an unpredictable endeavor. I don't know if I'm going to be fortunate enough to continue casting next year or the year after that. And I feel like because a lot of this endeavor is out of my hands, I don't really have a 5-year plan of this is where I want to be in casting in 5 years, because it's not like if Wizards suddenly stopped hiring me, I can update my LinkedIn and put a resume into the other company that is running Magic Pro Tours. This is the only game in town. So in that way, I try to not think about the future too much in those terms. I would like to continue casting Magic for as long as possible. I would like to cast other games if given the opportunity. I have done some casting for Storybook Brawl. I've recently gotten a chance to do some casting for Marvel Snap. I would like to continue doing that as well. Casting is something that I really enjoy. So being able to do it for not just Magic, but esports in general, is something I appreciate. But the goal really is continue doing it as long as they let me. And once they don't, figure it out from there.
What about, outside of casting, like what are some of do you have goals or things related to Magic?
I would love to work behind the scenes once casting is no longer an option, whether that is at Wizards or elsewhere. I had many years of events experience working at the gaming stadium, so I feel like I would do well at events, but I would also love to, work at Wizards, helping work on the game. But it's something that is not an active goal. It's I'll think about this when casting is no longer an option.
Yeah. Sounds like right now you're still very much in the moment. Take it one event at a time.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel fortunate that I don't feel any sort of urgency to have a plan. I feel like if and when I'm no longer able to cast, I'll be in a position where I can take 3 to 6 months and try to map out what the next step is. And until then, I'd rather just savor where I'm at and focus on my professional work with casting and my personal life with my health, both physical and mental, and just make sure that's in order without focusing too much on the future.
Wise words. So thank you, Monty, so much for taking the time to share with me your past experience, like really past, present, and future. And what is the best place for people to find your work, or where you would like to be where would you like to be found on the internet?
Honestly, I like to be found on whatever tournament or event I'm broadcasting, but the single organized place to find that out is probably on my Twitter at Zapgaze. I don't really use it for anything other than work. But if you'd like to find out what the next event I'll be doing commentary for is, then that's the easiest way to find out, as well as all the card previews and whatnot I may share.
And you're also on a new exciting podcast with Maria Bartoldi, right? So you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is on the Good Luck High Five feed. It's called Deaths After Dark. And the idea is essentially Maria and I, after every Pro Tour, are planning on sitting down and recording a podcast essentially about a behind the scenes look at Magic coverage. What people may not realize goes into it off air, and how the show gets brought, as well as just talking about how we feel like the show went, answering your questions, which we're always happy to collect, and just talking about coverage because it's a passion for both of us. We really enjoy doing it, and we just don't want the show to quite end. So why not extend it with a little bit more on it before it ends?
How did you guys come up with this show? I suspect it might be partly from you, but I kind of want to hear it in your own words.
It was in Las Vegas for the previous World Championship. We were just in the green room. And I've always wanted, so it feels weird to say always because I've been doing coverage for 2 years, but I really wanted to talk about how coverage gets made in a way that was public facing, because there's a lot of misconceptions about coverage. There's a lot of assumptions that the public make about the decisions that go into a show, whether it be ads, whether it be content pieces, the purpose for different things, why certain things get presented one way or another. There's a lot of things that I saw people commenting on that was just blatantly wrong. And it didn't come from a place of malicious intent. It came from nobody talks about how coverage actually gets done at the highest level and why those decisions are made. And I wanted to shed some insight on that. So, it was something I wanted to do, and we were in the green room in Vegas, and I was joking with Maria, we should start a podcast just talking about coverage. Call it Desk After Dark, because it's our just unfiltered thoughts on events and what it's like to do coverage and being able to answer these questions and being able to shed a light. In doing so, just spread that knowledge, insider or otherwise, about commentary that we have, and I would love everyone to have. So that was the goal. It was, mostly joking and messing around, but Maria was interested, and after we got home from Las Vegas, we talked more about it, and we decided why not do it. So we recorded an episode, and then we just did it again, and we'll keep doing it as long as we feel like we have things to talk about. We feel like the behind the scenes of the events is interesting to look at, and we're getting questions to answer. We'll keep on doing it. It's not, it's nothing that we're putting too many resources or too much time into. But once a pro tour, every 3 months or so, being able to just put something up like that, it's fun.
Excellent. I'm a big fan already. I've listened to parts of the two episodes. You guys, at the time of this recording, you guys had just released the Pro Tour Phyrexia recap, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. Like the chemistry that the two of you have is still showing, obviously, through this show. And people listening to or watching this, please definitely check out Desk After Dark. I will drop some links in the description show notes. And Mani, thank you so much for taking the time, for being so candid with your magic journey with me.
I appreciate you having me. It was fun to catch up and chat, and just it's nice going through sort of the evolution of the person, just thinking about who I was and who I ended up becoming. I have some pride in that, just because I definitely was not happy with the person I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and I feel like I am now, and being able to revisit that, talk about that was cool.
Yeah, I'm just so happy that we're able to catch up after all these years, and I sincerely just as a friend, someone who knows you, I just wish you the best, man. I just really want you to continue to be in a good place, and the number one thing I can wish you is just hope you can continue to be well, and you're sounds like you're in a good place, and I hope you can figure out a way to keep it up.
I appreciate that. Thanks, James.